2020 has been a crazy year for all of us. That also counts for the game Trackmania. So I thought, why not sum up the year that has passed? Why not celebrate the winners? Why not celebrate the ones who has done well? And who is really better to sum up a year in Trackmania than myself? I cannot think of anyone. But all jokes aside, I have worked really hard on this. I've used the whole year to take down notes about who has done well at particular events, what moment has been memorable, what streamer had the most stream time in March, etc, etc. So these awards can actually be based on stats and facts from the whole 2020 and not only the last months where the people remember the best. I am not an expert in everything that is taking place in Trackmania. I am mainly following the esports side of Trackmania, so these awards will of course be based upon the esports stuff that has happened in Trackmania. I'm gonna be so humble to give my opinion about 9 awards. Again, try to base them the most on stats and facts, but in the end I'm gonna be the guy who takes the final decision if it's close between some awards. The awards I will hand out tonight are Story of the Year, Moment of the Year, Streamer of the Year, Caster of the Year, Most Improved Player of the Year, Match of the Year, Event of the Year, Performance of the Year, and the biggest one, Player of the Year. And who knows, if you are at the end of this show, there might be a little surprise coming up for you. But let's get started with the first award. Some might say it's the most important award, but let's get it started with Story of 2020. I'm not gonna waste your time to mention a bunch of nominees that in the end is not even gonna be considered as a potential winner, because in my head there is one nominee and there is one winner in this award. Story of the Year is something that we remember from the year 2020. When we look back at the year 2020 in, let's say, 5 to 10 years time, what are we gonna remember from Trackmania in 2020? If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you don't know what has been the biggest storyline for this year, what have you really done in Trackmania this year? Where have you been? Because ever since March until December, there has been one main storyline, one main talking point. Ever since the new game was announced at the end of February in Lyon until now, it has been the main storyline. It created hype. It was supposed to be released May 5th, but due to Corona, due to Serati Cup being cancelled, it was eventually released July 1st. The event gathered a lot of hype within the hardcore community. It gathered attention outside the hardcore community, and we even had the biggest streamers in the world playing this. This game has impacted, let's say, if not all of us, at least most of us in Trackmania. We have seen big players coming back, we have seen some legends coming back, we have seen a new rise of Gwen in this new Trackmania, and we have simply seen more attention for Trackmania than we have ever seen before. We can debate about if this implementation and release of this new game was a good thing, should it have waited one more year. That is not up to us to decide. The game is out and the game release has been by far the biggest storyline for 2020, so it's safe to say that my first award at the Holdal Trackmania Awards is going to the release of a new game, that being Trackmania. The next award is arguably the hardest one we have to give out tonight. It's gonna be Match of the Year. If you look at esportearnings.com and if you look at Trackmania, there were 131 events registered to that site this year. That is only including events with prize pool, and then you have to consider that each event has like 20 matches. So to be one guy who is not doing this full time, and then I have to recap everything, that is gonna be impossible. But I have a good impression about what the main matches has been, what has generated the most attention, where have the best players been playing, etc, etc. But feel free to tell me if your match of the year is not nominated or if your match of the year is not winning. But anyway, the match of the year nominees for 2020 are From Zero to Hero Grand Final.
Between Novice right now, as he is getting another 10 points. And
what
is this time? A point 89 by Novice.
French Championship Grand Final.
I can risk it. Who will it be? It will be Grand. Who will take it? What the fuck was this ending? Are you kidding me?
Full Speed League Grand Final.
Hunter's dead. Hunter's dead, and this could be it right here. Mada is now in the lead, and Nomolops need to take home the first positions now. Nomolops need, in the best case, P1, P2, and P3. But Mada is first. This is it. GG.
Trackmania Grand League Winter 2020 Loser Bracket Final.
Decided all, Ryulu with the low line, Tween is wider, Ryulu has more speed, and ladies and gentlemen, Ryulu will advance to the loser bracket finals in the very last moment.
So, it was super hard to narrow it down to 4 nominees. I could have done 10, I could have done 12, but in the end, I narrowed it down to the matches I remember the best, that I had a thrilling feeling about watching it. If I was like in Lyon, standing behind the players in a super quiet room, you still felt the tension, or watching the French Championship alone in my bedroom, but still you were like, what is gonna happen, who is gonna win it? Or for the first time watching a Full Speed League Grand Final, that I was like, sure, let's give it a chance, and at the end of it you were like, okay, Full Speed is actually a really cool style. But the winner to me is gonna be the event that gathered the best players in the world in a style that we somewhat said goodbye to. We don't really know. We said goodbye to Trackmania 2 Stadium. I think we all know what event and what match I'm talking about. It's the match that was played out between Carl Jr., Pack, Tween and Novice. And the event was From Zero to Hero, and the match was the Grand Final. This match was super close, it was super intense. You had 3 of the all-time greats in Carl Jr., Pack and Tween battling out with each other, and then you had somewhat of an underdog coming in Novice that I personally didn't believe had a chance, but still he managed to give them a fight, and a match that in the end the British player Pack won.
10 points right now, and he is going for it, risking it, and taking so much speed at this one. He is now in the lead, on his way to winning From Zero to Hero, winning first place, but he is not done yet. As Carl Jr. and Novice, but everybody's so close together, and Pack is now slowing down a little bit. Carl Jr. going for the attack, Novice with a bit more speed. Novice does not make the jump though, and Carl Jr. and Tween overtaking Pack in the meantime. They are trying to block Pack's first finalist attempt, but a bit of an insane, and Pack could make a Tween makes a mistake. Pack is on his way, and no! Carl Jr. is not able to snipe him. Pack takes the win.
Before we get into the next award, I just want to clarify something. I'm not gonna include French casters who cast in French in this award, simply because I don't understand French. It wouldn't be fair to either the guys like Necro and Wingo Bear, or the other nominees that is actually speaking English. I cannot in a fair way put them up against each other to see if their cast is actually good, if they actually put in the hours beforehand and afterwards to actually do some proper research and proper work about the player, which I'm sure they are doing, but I cannot confirm it. So in these awards and the Streamer of the Year award, there will only be English speaking casters and then streamers. But let's not waste any more time, let's get into Caster of the Year and who the nominees are. And to be honest, I would sum up this year as the best one for the casting scene. Because just go back to Trackmania Grand League Winter 2020, you had so many different casts to pick from. All of them provided a good cast, all of them had a benefit over the others, and then vice versa. So if you wanted to pick something, you found something for each and every taste. Normally you have like a clear stand-up favorite. 2018, 2019 it was Riolo. In 2017 I would say it was Spam, and then 2015, 2016 it was Frostbuel. But this year it feels like there's like an open field. There's a blue ocean. Who is gonna capture the casting scene? Who's gonna become our main caster? I still don't think it's clear about who the main caster in Trackmania is, which is somewhat fun, but I hope that in 2021 we'll get maybe a little bit more established about who is really the main go-to caster. But anyway, let's go into the nominees, and the nominees for Caster of the Year 2020 at Holdal's Trackmania Awards are Scotty.
Maximum points in the bag for Massa, of course. Very, very strong performance. He was pretty much in the lead from the offset here, but let's not count our chickens before they hatch. Let's take a look at the final standings here as they go into the identity for the final time. Massa with an awkward flip. He doesn't make it into the respawn, so he needs to respawn even further back. That's a lot of points lost. He's going to roll all the way back down.
Virtual.
Or else it will be Tween moving on. One more identity now across the no grip section. He goes up and he goes down with more speed than Aurel, who fails it. And at this point, Tween, we can all but say not GG because he fails. He fails. He crashes the checkpoint. He doesn't handle the pressure. And Riolu takes the win.
GG.
Tween right now, he's actually slowed down. He's now up to around a 10th and a half to 2/10 down on Tween, and let's actually see the final part. Maybe this could be where packed wheels. Tween in and overtakes him in the final jump. Tween going really wide, and let's actually see who gets the most momentum in the finish. Who gets the whole jump? Who gets it? It's gonna be Tween. No, the 100,000th of a second will. The 10th of thousandth of a second will decide it, and Pack will get the win. GG for Pack, who gets the win, and now Tween is alone against his fate to secure second.
Turbo.
But also this Gwen in the mix. And also Coco, who will it take? Who will take it? Link in the lead. Coco, Gwen. Oh my god, this is impossible to call. Link with a good section as well as Gwen. Gwen can risk it. Who will it be? It will be Gwen who will take it. What the fuck was this ending? Are you kidding me? Oh my god.
So there you have it. That's my 4 nominees. I'm sure you could put up 4 other nominees. You can mention like Riolu, you can mention Sinus Apple, you can mention Spam for casting Open Grand League, Marius 89, Cousin, etc, etc. But these are my 4 nominees, and these are, in my eyes, a little level above the rest. By putting in a lot of work, all of them has done it, and then also by providing a quality cast. But who are you gonna pick for Caster of the Year? I'm sure that you're gonna pick maybe a different one than I am, but also maybe you can pick the same as I am, because in the end this comes to about what you value once you sit down. You cannot simply base this on numbers. If it was that, then Turbo would of course be your pick, because Turbo is by far the most active English caster. But what you can pick Turbo for is if you value a caster that is actually covering the smaller events, that is actually covering events that if he didn't do it, we wouldn't even know they existed. The players would not get a spotlight to shine on a stream. They would not go back in time and say, oh, this is what I looked like when I played in 2020. You'll have a guy like Virtual that is giving exposures to Trackmania that we haven't seen. He's breaking numbers that is almost 2,000 viewers, so if you just go into a random Sunday in Trackmania Grand League, it's for sure Virtual who is the biggest streamer. So if you value exposure, if you value getting new fans into Trackmania on a platform where they have a knowledgeable caster, then Virtual of course is gonna be your cast. If you value a guy who is doing preparation, who is speaking better English than people from America themselves, then you have G Geek. He brings in hype, he brings in a lot of research. He wasn't even around the stadium scene from what I know in 2019, and now we can speak about the players the same way I do. So the research he do before the matches and the work he do with the visuals is so insane to see. And the last one, Scotty, if you just want to sit back and to hear about every player, and then I mean every player, Scotty knows the storylines for the tier 1 players. I of course also knows that, but Scotty knows the tier 2 players, the tier 3 players, and even maybe the tier 4 players. So the knowledge he has about storylines for the, at least in the tech scene, and he also did some research for the full speed scene, is unmatched. The storylines he knows how to hype it up, he knows how to take it down, so If you want the most knowledgeable caster, I would give the award to Scotty this year. But this is not the most knowledgeable caster, this is not the most prepared caster, this is not the most exposure caster, this is the most active caster. This is caster of the year. And who is gonna take it? To me, it was hard, but in the end it was also not hard. Because one guy had stand out this year in terms of the work he has done and in terms of the growth he has had. In January he casted Open Grand League to 1 viewer, and then some months later he got picked up by a big org. Now he has casted Twitch Rivals, he has casted both seasons of Trackmania Grand League, and he is the best he's the best Frenchman who speaks English that I have ever heard. I still don't believe that he is from France, but the winner of Caster of the Year is G Geek.
Carl Jr., will he pull a Gwen like he did last time around? No, he manages to keep it off the walls. 201 at the exit of that free will part. Carl Jr. has now 7/10 of a gap to Gwen in the heading into the identity now. It's down to the final 2 ice walls. Here we go, first ice wall for Carl Jr. Will he be able to keep it safe? Oh, barely managing to avoid the CP. Will he be able to keep it safe at the second one? Yes, he can. And Carl Jr. for the 2nd season running is your Grand League champion. Gwen's big moment will have to wait for another season in winter 2021. $4,000 for Carl Jr. and $2,000 for Gwen at the end of it.
The next one is also a hard award to determine who is the real winner of it. Simply because there has been so many events hosted in Trackmania 2020. 131 events was registered at the Esport Earnings website last time I checked. So then it's a new record. It's like beating the last years with double the amount of events. And normally you have like a clear favorite, because every time Creator hosts an offline event, it's hard to not pick him, simply because it's so cool to be there, it's so cool to watch the show he is hosting. But this year there was only 2 offline events, both hosted at the same event, so Leon Esport and then Trackmania Grand League Winter 2020. But that hasn't stopped this year for hosting good events, so I will actually include 6 nominees for this one. And the nominees for Event of the Year at the Holdal Trackmania Awards 2020 are Trackmania Grand League Winter 2020, Leon Esport 2020, From Zero to Hero, Full Speed League, Serati Trackmania Cup 2020, Trackmania Formula League. So that's my 6 nominees. You could easily have mentioned a lot of others. I know some people are gonna mention Kaki is Kaki, where is it? I don't know, it's not on my list at least. It already won Event of the Year in 2019 at the community-based awards. I'm still somewhat mad about it, so I will not put Kaki's Kaki on my list. An event that I could have put it here, that I somewhat wanted to put here, is Cup of the Day. Simply because it's such a good implementation from Ubisoft Mondeo. It brings so much fun to the pro players, to the casual players, to the viewers, to the betters in the Twitch chat. But in the end, it didn't feel right to put that event up against these sort of one-time events. Cup of the Day is something that's taking place every single day. In the end, I had to pick one winner, and it was hard. When I sent out the visuals to I'm Angel, who is making the winner pictures, I decided like 2 minutes and then I switched, so I'm not really confident about the winner, but that is not because the winner is not deserving. That is simply because the others are also deserving. But I will not talk about each and every nominee too much. I will just go into the winner, and the winner is an event that hosted the best of the best players. It had a smooth running event from start to finish. It allowed some of the top tier 3 players to shine on the biggest stage. It allowed the biggest players to play head to head against each other in close battles. It allowed the casual players to have a chance to play more than 2 matches. And it allowed the community to watch it on multiple different streams. The event of the year at the Holdal Trackmania Awards 2020 is the Leon Esport tournament. Maybe surprising to some, but to me that event runs smooth from start to finish. It had the best players in the world playing it. Of course, some were missing, but you had Carl Jr., you had Bren, you had Spam, you had Dutchy, you had Riolos, Papu, Aurel, etc, etc. It also did something, and that is the main reason why I actually pick it. Sure, it can run smooth, many events run smooth, sure you can attract some of the best players, many events do that, but not many events and not many LAN events. Only one previously that I have been to has done this. It actually allowed the casual players, not the best players, the casual players who is knocked out when they meet Carl Jr. in round 1 and win like 0 rounds. They had an amateur bracket. You can go to Leon, you can play, of course, some tough matches in the start, but then you know that, okay, after the 2 matches, I still can enjoy playing Trackmania at the LAN event. I can still play what I actually came here to do, and that is to have fun at the LAN event playing Trackmania. So I hope more events follows this once we actually get offline events back, if we ever do. But the Leon Esport tournament is for sure my event pick of the year. Even had some of the tier 3 players having the chance to shine in front of the stage. It allowed some of the tier 2 players also to shine on the stage, because Trackmania was showcased a lot in Leon, and that is something I think we should value, that an event organizer like Leon Esport could easily have just put Fortnite on the stage all day long, but it actually took some time to showcase Trackmania. It allowed some of the upcoming players to actually get the feeling about how is it to play in front of 1,000 people. So my event of the year 2020 is Leon Esport. So, what makes one streamer better than the other one? I don't know. And I'm not here to give you the answer to it. I'm simply gonna tell you about who's the streamer of the year at my own award show is, and how I have determined that. I have put my own bias away. I have not thought about my own feelings about who I would watch if there was like 5 streamers at the same time. Who would I personally prefer? I have based this on numbers. I have gone through each and every month in 2020. I've checked who has done well in January, who has done well in April, who has done well in September, and then added the whole year together. So this is totally, or somewhat totally, based on stats and facts, but also, of course, they have to have some sort of content up there. Anyways, let's not waste any more time. The streamer of the year nominees for 2020 at my own Trackmania Awards are Virtual.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yes.
Spam.
Yo, Mudda, how is the race going so far?
Yeah, it's going sick, cunt. Yeah, I'm driving really good, cunt. 68 points right now. Really good, really good.
All right, Mudda.
Riolu.
What is this shit? Where are you going? Oh my god. Yeah, I'm actually gonna tell your mom. Nice meme.
Simply Nick.
That is it. I know that is it. The time has arrived. This map is ending. Holy shit!
So, quickly run through some stats and facts about these ones. If you go to the 12 months we have, Spam is 11 out of 12 times top 10 on most watched streamers. The same goes for YOLO. He's also 11 out of 12 times on the most watched streamers. Virtual 9 out of 12 times on the most watched, and Simply Nick is 3 out of 12 times on the most watched. If you go to stream time, this is where our Australian friend Simply Nick shines. Simply Nick set a new record for most amount of hours streamed in Trackmania with over 1600 hours streamed. 11 out of 12 months in 2020 he was top 10 on the most amount of hours streamed. Riolo was 9 out of 12 months on the top 10 list. Spam was 4 out of 12 times on the top list. And then Virtual was 3 out of 12 times on this top list. So all of them have been busy, all of them have been successful, so we cannot use the argument of saying that one streamer should just win because he put more hours into it, because then it would be Simply Nick. Then the award should be named Most Active Streamer of the Year. But Simply Nick is not only hours. Simply Nick has actually gained a solid following. If you tune into his channels now compared to if you did it 1 year ago, you are going to notice a difference. He has built up an audience. He has an average view over 50. I believe it's somewhat 80, around there. So he's actually up there on watch time as well. And you have to do something right to gain a following, and Simply Nick has done something right in 2020. But the other ones are the three big ones once they come to international streaming, but they are also putting in the hours to it. You can just look at Riolo. 9 out of 12 months he's up there at the top 10 list. So the hours he put in to Trackmania over the whole year is good. The same goes with Spam and Virtual, even though they are not top 10, which might be somewhat unfair to them, because they are top 15, top 20 in the months they play, so they are putting in hours every single month. But I'm gonna base this upon numbers, but before that, I'm just gonna quickly say something about each and every streamer that I think was noteworthy for them, so you actually think I watched them. Riolo, I think the most standout thing he did this year was the Trackmania Marathon. He gained a lot of popularity through it, he gained a lot of viewers through it, where he simply played all of the Trackmania games. New viewers came into his chat, so okay, this is cool, what is this all about? And then Riolo was like, yeah, this is Trackmania, we are playing through all of the games, and then there's a new game coming out at the 1st of July, so stay around to that. And then, of course, more people found out about the release of the game, and once the release of the new game came, Riolo was the most watched English streamer, at least from Trackmania. I'm not gonna consider XQC, Lyric, etc, because Riolo was there, he had a good following, he actually taught the viewers that, or teach the viewers that was actually coming in about this game, what they should consider, why they should buy it, etc. Spam, being the big brain behind Twitch Rivals, which I have dreamed about seeing in Trackmania, even though that is might not consider directly through his streaming role. I think him being the GOAT of Trackmania streaming is essentially a good reason why it actually came through. But besides that, he has been busy with, of course, event training, like Riolo also have been, but he's also hosting these events for his community, Santa Cow Cup, etc. Virtual is maybe the most unique guy here. He's maybe to some extent beating a dead horse by playing this Trackmania Nations Forever campaign. Some would say, why are you still doing it? Well, guess what? It's still fun and people still watch it. Who would have thought that over 1,000 people would watch a blindfolded guy play Trackmania? You cannot interact with the chat once you're blind because you cannot see, but still, people showed up, people found it hilarious, and you can just see how much determination Virtual has once it puts its mind to it. He's also done a lot of other crazy challenges in 2020, so I wouldn't consider him as one of the big streamers last year, over the whole year, but in 2020 he's for sure become one of the main streamers in Trackmania. But Simply Nick, as mentioned, being the most active one and also gained a lot of solid following, so I won't go much more into detail about him. So let's not wait any longer, let's get into it. Let's determine who is Streamer of the Year 2020 at the Holdal Trackmania Awards. My winner has beaten the other by the numbers. He has been the biggest streamer once it's the most important time in Trackmania, that being before and after the release of this new game. So my Streamer of the Year is your favorite German, it's Riolo. Performance of the Year is the most outstanding performance, who essentially beat the others when they have no chance of actually standing up towards them. Who made the other top players in the world look like they didn't belong there? That it was a level between him and the rest? Well, there were some performances in 2020 that stands out to me. So let's not waste any time, let's go into the nominees. The nominees for Performance of the Year at Holdal's Trackmania Awards 2020 are Carl Jr. at Trackmania Grand League Winter 2020.
Here and now the identity will decide it all. Will Carl Jr. win Trackmania Grand League in this uphill? 2 turns remaining. He gets a bit low speed, but that is going to be enough. And Carl Jr. is our Trackmania Grand League champion.
Carl Jr. at Trackmania Grand League Winter 2020 winner bracket final.
In first place, going up to the final corner, and ladies and gentlemen, Carl Jr. has just pulled off one of the craziest performances we've ever seen. Closest the match in 14 rounds.
Gwen at Zeta Cup quarter final.
3 dixièmes, hein, Xerard ultra fort quand même, hein, d'arriver à tenir Gwen sur cette map, clairement, et d'avoir pu lui choper un round, il aura cassé l'invincibilité. Aïe 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 aïe. Allez, le dernier saut peut-être pour qualifier Gwen en 3 maps. Il avait juste la flemme de jouer, il est tard. Le airtime de Gwen est beau et c'est fait, mesdames et messieurs. Gwen se qualifie.
Papu at Step 1 of Trackmania Grand League Fall 2020.
Are set in stone here. Impressive performance just from Papu. Wow, what a great performance.
Looking at the times from Step 1 Winter 2020 season, that being the last season, the biggest margin between number 1 and 2 was Papu back then as well. It was 2.4 seconds, and now it's 8 seconds. So Papu on this map, I have no clue what that was. It looks like he was professional and the other one was sort of an average player, but he did that against the best of the best in the world. So I'm curious if Papu is just gonna steamroll map 5 and 6 as well. So 4 nominees here, and if you listen carefully, 2 of them are from the same event and 2 of them are from the same player. I felt like including both Carl Jr.'s performance at the whole playoffs in Trackmania Grand League Winter 2020 and also his match at the winner bracket final. Simply because you have the 2 other nominees being somewhat of one match. It was Gwen at the quarterfinal. He won like 10 rounds in a row, 11 rounds. After 11 rounds he was finished like maybe 12 rounds. I don't remember, but it was so outstanding. It became sort of a meme with a set. So that performance from Gwen was maybe a moment that people realized that, okay, Gwen is actually no joke. He does this in a quarterfinal where most people struggle to qualify into the semi-final. Then you have Papu, the Step 1 of Trackmania Grand League Fall 2020. You're like, okay, what was this? Is Papu just gonna steamroll everything? Is he the most dominant player in this new Trackmania game? It turns out he wasn't, but still the Step 1 performance from Papu is in my memory, and it's somewhat scary in my memory how good I actually thought and how good Papu actually looked in that match. But I'm not gonna waste your time anymore. The winner for performances of the year is Carl Jr. at Trackmania Grand League Winter 2020. I'm not gonna mention just the winner bracket final because that would be unfair to Carl Jr. Carl Jr. did perform well in more than just the one match where he won 10 rounds in a row or something, and he essentially had to watch. He was more of a spectator after he finished on the stage than he was a player on the stage during the match. He started the playoffs in the first match that was taking place in a quiet area where it was just the players, myself, and some other people. It was dead silence. You could feel the attention, but Carl Jr. started off with winning, I believe it was 7 rounds in a row. You were like, why didn't I bet for Carl Jr. in my betting league? Why do you ever go against Carl Jr. when he really wants to win something? And it was clear. From that moment on, I realized that, okay, this is not going to be a battle for who is going to win it. It's going to be a battle for who is second. And it was also the feeling I got from the other players. When the other players looked at Carl Jr. in Lyon, they were like, okay, why even bother? Why even bother? I don't know if they thought that, but that was the feeling I got. Once he got to the stage, he even unmatched what he did. Or he overperformed, rather. The match he had before was forgotten. Because the performances we had in the winner bracket final, where essentially it's going to be the 4 best players in the world, Carl Jr. made them look like tier 3 players. He made the best players in the world look like they didn't belong on the same stage as him. Carl Jr. has had an incredible career in Trackmania. He has done some of the most outstanding performances in the game's history, but I will argue that the performance he did in Lyon is the most dominant performance we have ever seen at a competitive esport tournament in Trackmania. So it's clear it was a no-brainer for me. The performance of the year in Trackmania is Carl Jr. at Trackmania Grand League Winter 2020 playoffs. So let's talk about the players that did something I didn't do, and that was to improve as a player in Trackmania last year. Who has improved the most playing Trackmania? That is something that is really hard to determine, because someone who is maybe a beginner at this game and then eventually is becoming somewhat mediocre that nobody has heard of has maybe improved more than someone who went from, let's say, being top 20 in the world to being top 10 in the world. But these players are gonna be names that you have heard of simply because they are easier to put up against each other, and it's easier to actually have followed their improvement. But anyway, they have improved this year, so they are really worthy of it. But sure, if you want to really deep dive into it, you can probably find someone else. But anyway, these are my picks. This is my award show, so I do whatever I want. These are the nominees for Most Improved Player of the Year 2020. Granadi, Gwen, Evan, Afi. So there you have it. 4 names that you have heard of, surprise surprise. But why are these players nominated? Granadi was somewhat unknown to at least the stadium scene. He was actually nominated for Most Improved Player of the Year last year at the Trackmania Awards, but that was because of his improvement in the United environment, as far as I remember at least. But this year he has gone from being somewhat basically a noob at the Trackmania Open Grand League 2020 Winter, and then to now in the combined he was actually close to making it in to the actual Trackmania Grand League. To have an improvement like that, you cannot ignore him at this award at least. Gwen, why do you put Gwen here? Wasn't he like good already? Well, Gwen was actually the winner of Most Improved Player of the Year 2019 at the Trackmania Awards. Deserved in my eyes, but still I cannot ignore him at this year either, because he has gone from being maybe considered as a top 10 player in the world to now maybe being the best player in the world. And if you do a step like that, how can you ignore him? Because I think the hardest step you can do is actually going from being top 10, top 20 to being top 1. So, of course, Gwen, once again, being nominated for Most Improved Player of the Year. I know it's somewhat sort of a joke, but the joke is actually deserved. Evan, why is Evan here? Let me ask you this, where was Evan in December of 2019? I have never heard of him. He was of course called Marcin back then, but I still haven't heard of him. He came to my radar once he qualified to the Winter 2020 season through the Polish qualifier. He did actually well at the Winter 2020 season, even with technical issues. He has played a lot of smaller events, done well at them, won some of them, and then he was close to making it into the playoff of this last season of the Trackmania Grand League. So it's actually gone from being an unknown player to now being arguably a top 10 player in the world, and that is something I don't think we will see every year. Afi, another one that was actually nominated for Most Improved Player at the Year at 2019 awards, so 3 of these are basically just copy-paste from last year. But again, it's deserved. Afi was nominated last year because he was going from an Adeo player to eventually qualifying into the Air France Cup, but this year he has gone from being a sort of a okay-ish competitive player to qualifying through the Open Grand League and then into the playoffs, and now you can argue is Afi one of the top 5 players in the world. You can put the argument up there, and if you can put the argument for someone actually being top 5 in the world where they wasn't maybe top 20 last year, how can you ignore them? So even though 3 out of my 4 nominees are nominees for most improved player of the year last year, which is, I know it's a joke, but anyway, I support this list. But the winner of most improved player of the year is, in my eyes, somewhat of a no-brainer, but I have to be honest, I've changed this pick 3 times these last 2 weeks, so I could have changed it if it was 2 more weeks, but I am sure about my pick. I have been more and more sure about my pick, and my pick is a player who has gone from being some sort of a hyped player, some sort of a prodigy. Was he really that good? How would he look once he qualified into Trackmania Grand League? How would he look once he got up head-to-head against Carl Jr.? Well, guess what? Gwen is an insane Trackmania player. Gwen has the level to be the best player in Trackmania. If he is the best player in Trackmania, that is still up for debate, but Gwen at least is up there in that conversation. A lot of people, if you go back 12 months, wouldn't say that he was one of the best players. A lot of people say that this is a player that is too much hyped, this is just because he's not playing against the best of the best. Now he has done it. Now he has won more events than most of the other players. He's maybe not won the Trackmania Grand League Fall 2020, but he has won the Serati Cup, so you can argue what is the most prestigious one. But in my eyes, it's so rare that we see someone going from the top 10-ish players to being the best player in the world, or arguably the best player in the world. When was the last time we saw it? Maybe back in 2015 once he got second at ESWC, going from somewhat unknown to then being up there. You can maybe make the argument for Kappa in 2018, but Kappa was still, like, I would say top 5, top 4 before that. But anyway, my argument is the same. My argument is valid. I don't care what you think. Gwen is the most improved player of the year in Trackmania 2020. So let's get into one of the last awards at my own Trackmania Awards. That is Moment of the Year. Something that the community-based awards ignored, which I don't understand, because this is such a fun award to look back at. What moments is the most memorable? What moments created the most reactions in the chat? What moments created the most shares on Twitter? What moments got the most views on TikTok? Etc, etc. But this award is also subjective. It's hard to do objective view about why is one moment better than the other one. I don't know. Was it the amount of retweets? No. Was it the amount of Omega Luls in the Twitch chat? No. But these are moments that sticks out to me. These are moments that I actually remember the most. These are moments that I can look back at still and laugh about. Still get the feeling about, oh, that was super close, that was super intense. So you're gonna have some funny moments here, you're gonna have some clutch moments, and you're gonna have some fails. The nominees for Moment of the Year at Holdal Trackmania Awards 2020 are Twin getting knocked out of Trackmania Grand League,
What happens?
Bad Lulu qualifying into the Serati semi-final, Gwen winning the French Championship,
And oh my god, this is impossible to call. Link with a good section as well as Gwen. Gwen can risk it. Who will it be? It will be Gwen who will take it. What the fuck was this ending? Are you kidding me?
Novice setting an insane time during the match,
Trying to get back in there, but it is impossible to get between Novice right now as he is getting another 10 points. And what is this time? A point 89 by Novice.
Granati fails in the combine,
It looks like he is attacking. Grenadi is doing it from 8th place OGL to winning the first challenge. It is Grenadi!
Are you kidding me? Grenadi, no way!
So all of these can be moment of the year. I don't judge you if you pick another one than I do, because all of these are hysterical. And I have a list of 25 others that could potentially be there. If you want to see some of them, you can check out my Trackmania best clips from 2020. But anyway, we are here to determine the best of them all. And what is it? Is it Bad Lulu clutching out in a super close battle between him and Glast at the Serati Cup? Is it Tween's heartbreaking moment in Lyon where he realized once he turned the cars on that, oh no, I don't have enough speed. I shouldn't have failed the finish the round before. I should have closed it out in one of the 4 finals attempts I had. Eventually sent home from Lyon. Is it Grenadi who finally looked to beat Moda? He surprised everybody. Was he gonna win it? No, he crashed in the finish. Is it Novice who was an underdog in the From Zero to Hero Grand Final but still showed everybody that, hey, I'm here to play as well. I'm gonna set the fastest time of the match. Or is it the actual winner? That is when Gwen won the French Championship in 2020. I didn't think he was gonna win it. At one point he was last, he was dead last. You had 3 players ahead of him, and he looked like it was actually Coco who was gonna win the round and maybe deny Link. But then Link came back and Link looked to become the French champion. But guess what? We have a prodigy from France. We have a great player that is coming up, and he showed that by becoming the French champion of 2020. And to just add something to it, the casting from Turbo made this moment actually stick out more. You can just hear the hype of his voice. So let's enjoy the moment of the year in full length.
The first place, but it is again, look at this, Coco in first place, and he is just marching through here as we see Link going for this super risk here. Now we have all of the 3 players who could potentially take that first place in the top 3. But it is Coco extending his lead to 0.1 of a second. Link with a more inside approach goes for the attack, but Coco with more speed, and Coco will remain in the lead. But Link goes for so many risks. Coco is getting pressurized now. Bad approach for him, and it is Link up in the lead. Oh, back and forth here in this section, but also it is Gwen in the mix. And also Coco, who will it take? Who will take it? Link in the lead. Coco, Gwen. Oh my god, this is impossible to call. Link with a good section as well as Gwen. Gwen can risk it. Who will it be? It will be Gwen who will take it. What the fuck was this ending? Are you kidding me? Oh my god.
We are come to the last award. I have been recording this all night. You can actually see in the window that even though it's no sun here in northern Norway during the winter, you can see that it's becoming lighter outside. So it's time to finish up this, it's time to wrap it up, and it's time to talk about the most important awards of them all. That is why we love esports, that is why I love Trackmania. It's because of the best players. Once you get the best players to play head to head against each other, there is no better feeling, on Twitch at least. And this year, there has been some outstanding players, there has been some upcoming players, there has been some veterans still showing that they are the best. Let's get into the nominees. The nominees for Player of the Year at my own Trackmania Awards are Papu, Pack, Gwen, Aurel, Carl Jr. So, I put 5 nominees here. I could have maybe narrowed it down to 4. I could actually have narrowed it down to 2. But I felt that it was natural to do it 5 because 5 people actually, to me at least, stood out more than others. But I'm not going to waste your time too much on 3 of them. I don't think they are a potential winner for the best player of this year. They are certainly a candidate for being on the podium, but we are not here to give out podium places. We are here to just talk about the winner. And to me, there are 2 candidates for this. If you say something else, I would like to hear why. I would love to talk with you for 10 hours about the why, to prove you why you are wrong, because there are 2 nominees here. There are 2 clear candidates here. One of them being Gwen, the other one being Carl Jr. And if you pick Gwen, I understand why. If you pick Carl Jr., I understand why. It all comes down to what you value, what you put as the most important factor over the other. You cannot simply base this on numbers, because there are some events that one won that the other one didn't win. Gwen won the ZLT Trackmania Cup 2020. He beat Carl Jr. there. So is that more important than when Carl Jr. beat Gwen at the Trackmania Grand League Fall 2020? That is up to you to decide. I have done that in my head now. I have valued if I put prestige or quality or quantity rather. Quantity being Gwen, who has won more events than Carl Jr., or quality by Carl Jr. actually doing well, I would say, at all 5 big events. Carl Jr. has been top 2 at every single major event this year. He won Trackmania Grand League Winter 2020. He was second at the Lyon Esport 2020, second at From Zero to Hero 2020, second at ZLT Cup 2020, and then he won Trackmania Grand League Fall 2020. And then you can mention Gwen, the combined rather, the Open Grand League, and then the combined from the Winter 2020, where he didn't play against the best of the best because he was too young. He won the French Championship, he won a lot of other smaller events, the biggest of course being the ZLT Trackmania Cup 2020, and then second place at the playoffs in the Trackmania Grand League Fall 2020. In the end, I didn't have a hard time to pick here. I had a hard time, let's say, just after the Trackmania Grand League Fall 2020. But now, the more I think about it, the more I have summed up the whole year overall, the clearer my favorite is. My pick for Player of the Year 2020 is someone who has done well at all of the big events. He started the year by putting on the performance we haven't seen in ages in Trackmania, maybe never. Carl Jr. won Trackmania Grand League Winter 2020 in a fashion that is unmatched. We haven't seen that before. He then, so after like 4 hours of sleep, he then woke up, he played the Lyon Esport tournament, didn't train, was just laughing, having fun with Bren, but in the end, he actually got second there. He was actually the only one to be a real contender to Bren, who had just come to Lyon to play that event. Then he showed up from Zero to Hero, the most stacked tech event of the year. He, sadly, to him, or his eyes, got defeated by his somewhat rival but also somewhat best friend in Pack, but still he got second there. Then new game, was the new game gonna affect him? Guess what, not really. Even though he didn't win the ZLT Trackmania Cup, he still got second. He still was a really strong contender for that win, so it's not like Gwen demolished him. He once again proved that, okay, the ZLT Cup, I can do well at it. I can do well at pretty much every single game as long as it has Trackmania in front of it. But then the cherry on the top was his win. He proved that once again he is the GOAT of Trackmania, even though there is a young kid coming up with the name of Gwen that is gonna be a real strong contender for Player of the Year in 2021. Carl Jr. still won Trackmania Grand League Fall 2020. So there is no doubt the greatest player of all time is Carl Jr. and the greatest player of 2020 is Carl Jr.
Now, the identity will decide it all. Will Carl Jr. win Trackmania Grand League in this uphill? 2 turns remaining. He gets a bit low speed, but that is going to be enough. And Carl Jr. is our Trackmania Grand League champion.
So what is this? This is the surprise I was talking about. Trackmania misses a Hall of Fame, so I'm gonna be so humble to give out my own Hall of Fame. I'm not gonna say that this is Trackmania's Hall of Fame, because I'm not gonna be that cocky, even though I could. I don't think anybody else will do it, but for now I will call it Holdal's Hall of Fame. This is gonna be people who has influenced Trackmania in a good way, that has left a mark, either as a player, as a community person, as a streamer, whatever. As long as the impact is important enough, I wanna include them, I wanna honor them. because it's easy to value who has done well 1 year and then forget about it. I want to value people who has done well the whole of their career, who has left a mark that we will never forget, who has written themselves into the history books of Trackmania. So, I will now mention 5 names that is gonna be added into this edition. It's left to see if I do Holdal Trackmania Awards 2021. If so, I will probably add 5 more. If not, we're only gonna have 5 people in this Hall of Fame, and they're probably gonna have a great time either way. But anyway, the Hall of Fame are... The first one is the most obvious one in my eyes. He is the reason why I'm in Trackmania. Even though he is from Sweden, he is the most important factor for me being here. That is Frostbuel, aka FB. Once I was still discovering the esports side of Trackmania, he was the guy I tuned into, he was the guy I watched the YouTube videos about, he was the guy who casted it, he was the guy that brought out feelings I didn't know I had while watching other people play a computer game. He was a community person that took care of the game, he spoke up about his opinion, even though I'm probably not the best one to actually speak about it, because at that time I was still a noob. I had no idea what the discussions were about. I just saw him and Bergie going at it. I saw Frostbuel being vocal towards Nadeo. I was like, sure, this looks important. But it was not until now maybe I realized how important Frostbuel's roles outside of being a player and a caster is. Frostbuel is a guy that everybody bring up every time you mention about who is in the Hall of Fame of Trackmania if we had one. We still don't have a Hall of Fame for Trackmania, but at least now Frostbuel has a place in a Hall of Fame, and that is something he truly deserves. I would love to have him back, even for 1 minute, to just hear about how he's doing, how his life actually, just a general. It doesn't have to be about Trackmania, but I think we all owe Frostbuel a lot, because he put a lot into this game that he loved and that we all love. The other one is also gonna be someone from my early days that is actually, again, a reason why I'm here. I believe if he wasn't the first one, besides Frostbuel, he was maybe the second one I discovered on YouTube that actually sparked my attention to the esports side of Trackmania. He has since then become my favorite streamer in Trackmania. I have to be honest, if there is one streamer I'm tuning into to watch when everybody's live, is this guy. Spam has been the face of Trackmania streaming. Without Spam, I'm not sure about where Trackmania streaming would be. Spam has been a pioneer. Spam has been streaming for so many years. I believe his first video is uploaded like 11 years ago to YouTube. Besides being one of the best players of all time, he's maybe more known now as a streamer. And that puts value to how good of a streamer and how important you are as a streamer when people forget that you are actually one of the best players. People are somewhat surprised that when Spam is a contender to the grand final of the biggest tournaments like Trackmania Grand League, once he was in the grand final of the Leon Esport, but he's still one of the all-time greats and he's still one of the best players in the world today. But the reason, and the main reason why I put him on this list, is his role of actually developing the streaming side of Trackmania, because again, I don't know where the streaming side would be without Spam. So Spam is also joining my Hall of Fame and hopefully the official Trackmania Hall of Fame in the future. Now let's get into the next one, who is someone I didn't discover at the same time. I didn't discover him at least at the same time as the other two. I discovered him once I first started actually going to events. He was actually the guy who hosted the first event I went to. And then I discovered, okay, there's actually more people than SoftyB hosting events in Trackmania. It's Mas, and the reason for it is simply because his role as an event organizer is insane. The passion he has shown to the scene, and especially the tech scene, has been enormous. He has hosted his own events, he has tried to bring in even some bigger events, like he put in his PowerPoint or something when he decided to leave Trackmania, that he was working so hard to get ESL involved, but that didn't work out because of circumstances he was not in charge of. And then again, just being an all-time great by being humble, allowing even a brand new journalist coming into his event, hosting interviews in my own room. So I don't know where I personally would have been if I didn't get that treatment at my first LAN event, and I'm not sure, more importantly, where the tech scene would have been without him. It probably would have been there because we still had so many other important events, but I don't think it would have been nearly as much fun, nearly as much active, and nearly have the same sort of spark towards it. You saw how many people tune up once he was hosting his, to date at least, last event. He said it's his last event. I don't think so, I don't hope so, but from zero to hero. He wanted to celebrate the end of an era, and I certainly don't hope that it's the end of his era. Mas is an all-time great, and he certainly deserves, again, a place in the Trackmania's Hall of Fame, but for now, you're invited into my Hall of Fame. One more I want to bring up here is also a guy who is behind the scenes, he's working. He was my strongest challenger for Community Person of the Year this year at the community-based awards. But hey, I'm unmatched at Community Person of the Year. I'm undefeated. I will still probably be that for the next 10 years. But all jokes aside, the work that John the Killer is doing behind the scenes is unheard of. I use unheard of a lot. I don't have a good enough English vocabulary to give the respect to these people that they deserve. But every time you go to an event in Trackmania, at least 95% of them, he is there. I think there is only one event that I have been to in my Trackmania career that he hasn't been to. And you can see that if there is problems, who do I tune to or who do I ask? It's John. Once John comes to you and says that this is what is going on, this is what's happening, everybody's like, okay, John has control, John knows what is going on. He's actually so much trusted that he is hosting for the biggest event organizer in the world, that's being Serrator. You can laugh about it, but the numbers he has in his attendance is, yeah, crazy. So I'm looking forward to seeing what John is going to do for the future. I hope that once I elect him into my Hall of Fame, that this is not going to be like, okay, I got into Holdal's Hall of Fame, now I can retire happily. Because Trackmania needs a guy like John, and I think we should be more appreciated of people like him. One last award before I officially close the Holdal's Trackmania Awards 2020. It's one more slot in the Hall of Fame. You might say that this is the most important one. You might not say it, at least in my eyes. I will not say who is the most important one or not. I was close to, but I wouldn't. Anyway, this guy is a guy who hasn't been treated fairly by the community in the start, who has been sort of memed about, who has been getting, I would say, hard messages from the community. I don't think he cares too much, but you just saw it from the hardcore scene. I was some sort of casual back then, but I still remember the messages. I still remember how people in the Trackmania scene spoke about these tournaments. But now, nobody is speaking bad about him. Nobody is ungrateful for having him here. Serrator certainly deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame of Trackmania. Serrator has changed this game. Serrator has helped this game in levels we cannot comprehend. Serrator is essentially the most important figure in Trackmania at the moment. If you laugh about it, okay, let me ask you this. Who was on the stage when the new game was going to be announced? Okay, it was Serrator because he's going to bring in viewers, sure. Okay, why was the new game delayed? COVID? I think there was a more important factor, and that was that Serrator couldn't host this event because of COVID. So, the new game was delayed because Serrator then had to host his event online and still show attention to this new game and bring in players to it. So the question is, should I have waited a year or two with putting him into the Hall of Fame? Maybe, but I'm not sure if I will do more of these award shows. I just wanted to put him in here because I think we will truly get the impact and get the feeling about how important Serrator is when he actually leaves Trackmania. When Serrator leaves Trackmania, I'm scared. I'm scared for the future. I'm scared about what happens when all of these players goes away that is following him. What happens when there is no people coming in, because he is the most important recruiter of this game. Without him, who knows where we would have been? Would there have been even a new game? Would there have been Trackmania Grand League? That is up for speculation. I know my answer to it. But anyway, we're not here to talk about my answers. We're here to honor the people that deserves it. And Zerator is certainly a guy who deserves to get honored for the work he has done for helping the game we all love, which is Trackmania. So that's it for Holdal's Trackmania Awards 2020. I hope you had fun. I have had fun for the whole year. Like mentioned, I put a lot of effort into it. I wanted to make it as fair as possible. I wanted to not forget anyone, and I know I probably have, but I actually have a good feeling about my results. I have a good feeling about my nominees, and I have a good feeling about why I actually put them up there. I haven't been able to put all of the sort of reasoning to it, because then this would be a 4-hour show. I already think it's too long, but if you want to know why I picked some nominees, hit me up. I have the numbers, I have the stats, I have the facts, and I have a good and valid reason. That is mostly objective, but of course sometimes subjective. Now the question remains, should this be an awards show I host in 2021? That is somewhat up to you to decide. If you liked it, I'll probably do it. But you're also going to decide if I'm here in 2021. I still don't know what my future holds in Trackmania. My future is decided about how this game overall is going. We are still at an unsure point in Trackmania. We're still not established as a major esport. We're still not sure, are we growing, are we going down? We don't know. But 2021 is going to be a year where a lot is going to happen, so I think there is a good idea to have, again, Trackmania Awards that is summing up it. Maybe the community awards are doing a better job than me. I don't think so. But that's up for... That is... Then I was subjective now. I was subjective. But anyway, I hope you had fun. I hope you appreciate the work I have done for these awards in particular. This is probably the biggest project I have done in 2021 as a singular project, at least. And just now that I have the opportunity, I want to thank everybody who has voted me as the community person of the year in 2020, and then of course in 2019 as well. You have given me 2 Facebook posts that I posted, and the boomers on my Facebook list is seeing that, okay, Eirik Holdal is doing something in an esport game that I don't understand. And all jokes aside, that first Facebook post actually got me a full-time job that I'm now working as and living a good life. So never underestimate what a good Facebook post can do. Maybe some of the guys who I awarded today can actually post it on their Facebook, and who knows where life will take you. That's enough for today. It's been recorded from now 6 o'clock in the morning till now it's actually 10, so I used way too long. Now it's time to edit, but once you're seeing it, it's hopefully looking at least somewhat decent. Until next year, all jokes aside, I see you tomorrow on Twitter.